evening from an unusually chilly Florida. But what's not chilly right now is the race for Arizona governor. It's arguably one of the hottest races to watch in 2022. And one of its hottest candidates is former newswoman Kari. She's unabashedly pro-Trump and she's never held public office before. But what does she feel about all the issues gripping our country right now? Kari sat down with me recently for an exclusive interview. We talked about a range of topics that could come up on her desk when she's governor. It's Kari Lake, uncut and unfiltered. Well, Kari, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. When I saw you announced your candidacy, I was, first of all, as someone who'd followed you, as a former journalist myself and had followed your work, I had always admired you and of course was sad when you left journalism because I felt like you were a good voice in that conversation, and I think that we're losing most of the good voices. So I wanted to know what prompted you to go from an already very vain, critical business like television news to now running for governor of your state.
I never imagined it, honestly. I just realized I had to get out of the media because it was very apparent to me, especially during COVID, that the media was absolutely pushing propaganda. Very little interest in covering early treatments, ways that people could get healthy so that they wouldn't get sick. Even no interest in talking to doctors who were having success. It was only a steady drumbeat of worst case scenario, stay inside, quarantine, shut your business down. And I realized that journalism had ceased to exist the way I knew it when I started. And more importantly, it went from being just biased to unethical and immoral. So I walked away from that and I put a video out letting the viewers of Arizona know. I mean, I've been covering this state for 27 years. I didn't want them to just think I was going to retire because I wanted to move on to other things. I was leaving for a reason. Journalism had died and it had become a beast of pushing and peddling propaganda, and I had no desire to be in that. So I put that video out and overnight it went viral, and I started getting emails and messages and people stopping me on the street saying, thank you for being an honest journalist. We trusted you. We understand why you're leaving. Would you consider running for office? We need people with integrity who understand this state. And it wasn't just one or two people, it was dozens upon dozens upon dozens reaching out to me. And I thought, maybe this is God's way of letting me know what my next step should be. So I started inquiring. I talked to a few people who I do trust in the political world. And I said, hey, what do you think? Is this something that an outsider can do? And they said, yeah, not only do I think an outsider can do it, I think you're the perfect outsider and I think you can win. So I just threw my hat in the ring. I mean, that's the story. And we have been going gangbusters ever since. We have a true movement on our hands. The people in the political world tell me they've never seen anything like this in the entire history of Arizona. So it's really special. And I know it's special because the media is attacking me unrelentlessly like they did President Trump. They're writing hit pieces about me. I have to have two media people on my staff just to handle all of the incoming from the media. It's a daily hit piece, absolute untruths. They're trying to call me all kinds of names. They're lying about everything from our fundraising to our amazing polling, which shows us 30 to 40 points up, depending on the pollster. They're putting out fake polls trying to say I'm faltering. It's insane. I knew the media was bad. I did not know it was this bad.
So you're saying you didn't think it was that bad. What has the effect been on your family and on your friends who are hearing a lot of these negative attacks on you?
Well, most of my friends now are kind of involved in my world running. I've made so many new friends, and as slimy as the world of politics is, and there are some really bad actors out there, I'm meeting amazing people because we're drawing in a whole new population of Arizona who's never been politically active. They're behind me because they know me, they trust me, and they know I'm doing this for noble reasons. I'm not doing this to get rich, get famous. So those are the people I'm surrounding myself with, and they understand what's happening. We saw this with President Trump. If you saw it with President Trump before, you know what's happening to me is just a carbon copy of that. My family's pretty tough. I mean, like I said, I've been in the public eye in Arizona for 27 years covering this state. So they've seen what it's like to be in the public eye. I was adored by a lot of people. I'm sure there were people out there during my 27 years, probably on the left, who didn't like me so much, but I always tried to be fair to everybody. And now they're seeing this like torrent of hate. And I think they just realize it kind of comes with doing the job of being an America First candidate.
In my lifetime, I've looked up to a number of journalists, and a few of them actually in Florida have also run for various office, whether it was state senate or mayor, and a lot of them have run as Democrats. Why did you decide to run as a Republican, and what does being a Republican in 2022 mean to you?
I grew up in the Midwest, about an hour away from where Ronald Reagan was born. And actually, Ronald Reagan, as a young man, spent a lot of time in my hometown when he started his radio career as a journalist. Actually, he was a sportscaster. But so I have those kind of values. I grew up with Ronald Reagan as president, and I thought he was the epitome of what it meant to be a statesman, a politician, somebody who represented and cared for the people. And I was a registered Republican almost all my life, except for a few years when I registered a different party, because I was concerned with where the Republican Party was going. And I was right. The Republican Party went off the tracks under people like John McCain and Jeff Flake and Mitt Romney. We realized that it was one party. It was the Democrats and Republicans were trying to act like they were different, but they really were a uniparty. President Trump came on the scene like a bull in a china store. And he woke us up to the fact that, no, there's still that Reagan type Republican out there. There's still that America First Republican out there. He reignited patriotism in this country. And so that was so inspiring to me. And that's when I realized, wow, why is everybody in the media trying to bring this guy down? He's trying to do something good. So I view the Republican Party, and I ran as a Trump Republican and a conservative on the Republican ticket. I am very conservative. If you haven't been paying attention to what these leftist policies have been doing, dragging this country down, selling out our working class to China, selling out all of our business, even our universities have sold out to China. If you haven't been awoken to that fact, then you're in a deep, deep sleep, and you got to wake up quick, because we're in the 11th hour to try to save this country. So I'm a Trump Republican. I'm not a Romney Republican. And I think that being a Trump Republican, which means America First, is the only way out of the mess we're in. And I stepped forward because I looked at the field of people I'm running against who were going to run on the Republican ticket, who are running. And they're rhinos, they're career politicians. They are actually, I think there's a couple serious rhinos in there who are saying one thing and will go out and do the opposite. And we can't let our state go that direction. The billionaires in California are trying to pick off every red state they can. They thought they got us last election with that shoddy, corrupt election, but they didn't. And we're not going to let them take us in 22. So I am the person standing between them and taking the state down a path where California is. And we have a unique perspective here in Arizona, because California used to be our summer playground. People aren't going there anymore. If you've been to California recently, it is a wasteland. It is a hellscape. They've let junkies run the streets. The homeless population's out of control. And they're not trying to do anything to fix it. They're just pouring money at the homeless industry, and they're prolonging the misery of these people. Meanwhile, they're prolonging the misery of the hardworking, decent tax-paying people in California. And that's why everyone's fleeing. And just yesterday, because of that, I put out our policy on homelessness and returning and restoring quality of life in Arizona. The new Republican Party is a party that's going to have solutions to fix the real problems facing America. And that's why the two policy papers I put out in the last couple of weeks have been about securing the border and dealing with the homeless crisis before it takes us down like it's taken California down.
And you brought up President Trump, and of course, he has endorsed you. And I'm sure he particularly likes the points you bring up about the border. I'm in Florida. You're in Arizona. You're on the front lines of of what many people perceive to be a crisis at the border. What are you seeing there on the ground, and what are you going to do as governor to try to fix that? Because some people might see that the federal government could be a roadblock there for you.
Well, they're going to try to be a roadblock, but the fact of the matter is they've dropped the ball. Article 4, Section 4 of the US Constitution, the Guarantee Clause, guarantees us protection from invasion. And we have a true invasion on our border. Joe Biden walked away. President Trump had that border more secure than I'd ever seen in the 27 years I've covered this state and covered border issues. And Joe Biden on day one ripped that amazing policy away from us and opened it up. And now the narco cartels, the narco terrorists are in control of our border. It's frightening. We're seeing tens of thousands of people cross. We're seeing very dangerous individuals come over. We've already apprehended some terrorists at the border. We've got drug smugglers, human smugglers, rapists. We have child traffickers bringing children across our border, not to mention China, which is trying to bring down this country, is funneling fentanyl through Mexico, up through Arizona, and into this great country to destroy us, to eat us alive, and to poison us. And it's reprehensible that Joe Biden is doing nothing. And so my border policy is very strong, and it talks about basically using our state war powers. And we're going to start with declaring an invasion at our border. We're going to work to set up interstate compacts with other like-minded states. And they don't even have to be border states, because we're all a border state now. You know, people are delusional if they think all of the border issues remain in Arizona. They're running in buses and flying people out in planes, and these drugs are being smuggled into every state and every community. So we're going to find like-minded states who will help. We'll pool our resources. We will work to secure the border by putting our National Guard, Arizona National Guard, on the border. We're going to set up border courts to quickly deal with the people coming across. We're going to arrest them for trespassing, process them through the border courts, and we're going to send them right back. And we will work with our counterparts in Mexico to make sure we are on the same page on this. But we're not going to sit here and take incoming from these cartels anymore. It's a crime against the people of Arizona and against the people of this great United States. We are sovereign. We're not serfs of the federal government. And we have every right to do this, and we will do it starting on day one with me. Now, you know, we've got people will say, well, even if you finish President Trump's wall, which we will, we've got smuggling tunnels underneath. Well, we're going to work with Israeli officials and Israeli experts to destroy those tunnels. They do it every day with the Hamas tunnels. And why on earth we're not shooting down these cartel drones that are flying back and forth across our border is beyond me. But when I'm governor, we're going to start shooting those damn things down. We are letting them run roughshod over us. And I'm a mom. I want my kids to be here. I want to have them have the opportunities I had. And I want my grandkids someday, when I have them, to have safe streets to walk on and parks they can play in. And the policies that have been pushed by our elected officials have been horrible for the citizens of Arizona. And it's about time we change that.
Going a little bit more broad, I'd love to get your opinion on the current situation with Ukraine and Russia, and our country's involvement in that whole dilemma. What are your thoughts on what's going on over there right now and the president's response to that?
It's just, I have a smile. I'm laughing because it's so asinine that Biden has all this concern for the border with Ukraine, and he's turning his back on his own citizens here on our border. It's outrageous. I mean, if I had a son in the military right now, I would be so furious. And I'm sure there are many, many men and women in the military who are furious that they may be called to go over and protect the Ukrainian border while our border is wide open, and crime is coming across the border when it comes to the trafficking of drugs and human beings. It's a national security risk truly on our border. But I don't think Joe Biden wants a border. He's a globalist. We all know that. He's a puppet. The CCP loves him. He has more allegiance, in my opinion, to the CCP than the US Constitution and the great people of this country. And he's proven that, and we've seen it on Hunter's laptop. We know what this man has been up to, the people who are aware of it. And hopefully someday there'll be some real journalists out there who will dig into that and show the American people what Joe Biden's been up to for much of his career. The fact that he's sitting in the White House is a disgrace.
And one final thing, Kari, you brought up the Chinese Communist Party. Between the coronavirus and the economic damage that our country suffers when China devalues its currency and our jobs are shipped over there en masse, how would you respond to those types of threats from China as Arizona governor? What can you do on your level to make sure that Arizona is protected from some of those threats?
Well, I just delivered a speech at a rally last night, and it was all about the things we're talking about. It was about China. It was about our border. It was about the homeless situation and how we've been handling it in the worst way, which is basically enabling people to remain on the streets. China was the first thing I talked about, and I think we need to start as governors going and pushing back against China, especially with somebody who's a sympathizer to the CCP in the Oval Office. I will rip up, tear up every agreement and contract made by any former politician of our state or lobbyist with the CCP. It is not only reprehensible that we would even consider dealing with this people, it's immoral. They use slave labor. They manipulate the markets. They manipulate their currency. They've taken, think about this, in 1980, China was practically medieval. It was farms and wooden plows and oxen. And in one generation, they've managed to steal all of our business, practically our entire economy. They've stolen our intellectual property. They have taken our manufacturing, and it's because Americans, those among us, some of those among us have sold us out. They've sold out our companies. They've sold out the American worker. We need somebody to stand up and say, we're not going to stand and take it. We're going to start bringing companies home and jobs home. It's called reshoring. And we're going to bring them back, and we're going to encourage them to settle and set up shop in Arizona when possible. We'll take those jobs. We will set up and work piece by piece to bring our manufacturing and our American companies back. And if they can take it away from us in one generation, we can take it back, hopefully in a generation or less. And if there's the will of the people behind me, I know we can accomplish that. It's going to take an effort, but we have to look deep in our soul and say, are we comfortable dealing with these people, the Chinese Communist Party? And I'm not talking about the hardworking, good people of China. I'm talking about the Communist Party. Are we comfortable dealing with people who are trying to destroy us, who are killing their own citizens, forcing them to work in forced labor camps, who are committing crimes against humanity against their own people? I'm not comfortable with that. I don't sleep well at night knowing that. And we need to fight back and take all of that, what we've given them, back. I'd rather see shops set up here and manufacturing here and in Mexico and in South America, where they're not doing that kind of business practice, than in China. And I think most Arizonans feel the same way.
Well, Kari, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. It certainly was a pleasure. Hopefully this was a little bit more interesting than talking about political donations from 15, 20 years ago. So I certainly enjoyed this, and best of luck on your candidacy.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be on today. I appreciate the questions.
Absolutely, Kari. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, that is definitely going to be a race that we're going to be following very closely as the year progresses. It's Nick Lully reporting for the Published Reporter.